injuries came a few years ago. I had gone back to do my master's, and I did it in thanatology for a couple reasons, but I did it in the back in the eastern states. A kid said to me, "What's thanatology, Kath?" I said, "It's study of death, dying, and bereavement." This kid says, "Kath, it sounds really good if you don't tell anyone what it is." And another young friend of mine, who's both her parents I had nursed till she died, she says, "Kath, it sounds like a master's in hell if you ask me." And I said to her, "I'm sure it does, Jen, I'm sure it does." So when I was after my master's in thanatology and looking at death through the ages, it's fascinating when you're a thanatologist. You see, you get to, discuss things with everybody from funeral directors to spiritual care advisors. And of course, I don't like nurses being snobs, but I discovered that I was such a snob because I couldn't figure out how they could graduate people from this course without some good practical information on understanding how to be with people when they were dying. Anyway, another topic. So a few years after that, I'm looking at the statistics and I'm looking at stuff and I'm going, this is incredible. Never in human history, ever, have we ever faced dying as we are and will face dying in the coming century. I want you to just think about this. Look at this next slide. We have this large aging population. We had these baby boomers, and when they were born, they were little, and there were these big numbers of babies. Then those babies grew up, and there were big numbers of young adults. And baby boomers, Ted says, you keep saying they think it's all about them, Kath. You're one of them. Oh, right. So we were young adults together, and we all thought it was all about us. And then we were having babies together, and now we've just started turning 60? Yeah, this last year. Not me. I'm a little bit later, but another 6 years and I'll be there. So what happens underneath this boom? It doesn't look like this. So if you were to look at those nice graphs as they go up, you'd see this group growing, and you'd see this smaller number behind them. We have a large aging population, and we have a decreasing workforce, and we have a decreasing number of family caregivers. Okay, now just think about this for a minute. We are dying of chronic illness. 70% plus of deaths are related to chronic illness. We have longer living dying process, a longer time where we are going to need caregiving. And we have many more unknowns, including when is time of death going to happen. Do you realize what this means? Is anybody getting it? Like all of you who are in the thing of wanting to train caregivers, you know this stuff, don't you? You know this because you've been talking about this at the college, right, Serena? You've been talking about how are we going to train this coming workforce. But you know, as a society, they're not getting it. We're not getting it. Okay, the boomers are aging. By 2031, we will have a double number of seniors, and 1 in 4 people will be over 65. In 1904, 1 in 20 people were over 65. We will have 1 in 4 people over 65. And I'll be one of them. By 2056, the annual rate will double to almost 5 million a year. Fewer caregivers, and care will be provided and required over a longer period of time. Amazing when you look at the practicalities of this. This is important for all of us. There currently less than 25% of the dying people receive specialized services from a hospice palliative care team. Now, 15 years ago, I would have thought, what do we need to do? Scott, what do we need to do? There's only 25% of people getting service from hospice palliative care. What do we need to do? Train more hospice palliative care workers. Nix the idea. I was wrong. Palliative Care Australia suggests that 65% of the dying can be cared for just fine, thank you very much, by their primary care team. The rest of the 35%, a certain percentage of that will need some consultation now and then from a palliative care specialist, and the other percentage, and they're not sure what that would be, might need ongoing support because of complex psychosocial or physical issues. The majority of people can be cared for just fine by the generalist, be they the generalist specialist or the generalist on a medical surgical unit or in a residential care facility. We do not need hospice palliative care specialists everywhere. We need nurses and healthcare workers and doctors who can, and family caregivers who can provide this good basic care. Is this rocket science? No. This is good basic stuff. So let's talk for just a minute about death. Oh, like just a minute. Death by chronic illness. If you're dying of cancer, you're likely in the last 6 months to see a steady decline in your health and in your functioning. This is like a road to Stewart. You go from Terrace, you drive to Stewart, you're on the road. There's one exit to Dees Lake. Otherwise, you're on this road, you know where you're going. Where are you going? Where? To God? Yeah, to die, okay. So when people are told you have a prognosis of 3 months, they may not hear it right away, but eventually they'll get it. Or it's pretty clear, whether they're going to get it or not, it's pretty clear what road they're on. Let's talk about dying with frailty and dementia. Well, it goes for years, and there's ups and there's downs, and there's more ups and downs, and it's really difficult to figure. Family's been called, they've been called again, they've been called again. Is my loved one dying? Is he not dying? Let's talk about the stuttering trajectory. I love this term, stuttering trajectory. Somebody's got CHF or COPD. They're going along, they're okay, they get an infection, they're admitted to hospital, they look like they're dying. Oops, they're given some antibiotics, they perk up, they're doing okay. They're not as good as they were before. And then, things are about the same for the next months or 6 months or 8 months or whatever, 2 months, 6 weeks, whatever. And then they fall and break a hip, and they look like they're dying, and then they perk up again, and then, all you guys doing all your good stuff on an orthopedic unit, you send them home again. And it goes on. And family are going, okay, I've been out west 5 times in the last 3 years to say goodbye to my mother. I am not going again. She's the ever-ready bunny, and she's never going to die. And so the person decides not to go, and then guess what? Mom dies. This is like driving along one of these roads. It's foggy. You don't know where you're going. Then you come around the corner, and the weather's looking good. And you're going along the road, and it becomes cloudy again, and then it becomes clear, and you don't know where you're going. Persons with advanced heart failure have a 50-50 chance to live another 6 months on the day before death. There's another study, people with congestive heart failure, the day before death, 80% they had a prognosis of living another 6 months. Less than half of us will know at the beginning of the week that we will be dead at the end of that week. So if you think of a number of people who die on Saturday, the Saturday before, half of those people will think it's a week like any other week. So if you're waiting for a drum roll to announce that you're dying, you ain't gonna get it. What most people mean by dying bears little resemblance to the days, weeks, and months that typically precede death with chronic illness. If you wait until the time of death is absolutely certain, you will more likely be filling out a death certificate than you will a referral for palliative care. We need nurses who can say, we know this road. I know it's foggy. I know there's unknowns, but we know this road. There are things we know about what's coming in advance, coming up for you. We can walk this road with you. Excellence in practice on a med-surg unit, excellence in practice in a residential care unit includes being able to talk the D word with our patients and with their families and loved ones. Excellence includes realizing that care of the dying is not the mandate, the sole mandate of hospice palliative care, nor should it be. Care of the dying is part of all of our jobs, all of our responsibilities. The average length of stay in residential care in the last 16, 17 years has gone from 41 months, 6 years later to 37 months, and 9 years later to 14 months. The majority of people who are admitted to residential care will die in residential